So I guess why I paired Poltergeist and Paranormal Activity together is because they both kind of have that similar theme of the modern technology at the time being that doorway for the old demons, spirits, whatever, to make contact and cross over into that present reality. So I guess the coolest thing to do is to just understand what like white noise is. So if you think of white noise, the actual audible static, it is essentially the noise that has the same amplitude or intensity throughout the audible frequency range, which is 20 to 20,000 hertz. Um, and what's cool about the white noise is that it's analogous to what white light is, which is a mixture of all the visible waves of light, right? And the content of these, which, we know about all the wavelengths too, but what's kind of interesting if you think in like a metaphysical kind of sense that white noise contains, echoes from the creation of the universe, supposedly, which is really interesting if you think of that being an actuality or a fact when pertaining to these particular films, that this white noise that came in between, whether the TV channels on the TV or in between, filming scenes on a video camera, whether it's Poltergeist or Paranormal Activity, what's always underneath everything, it's insinuated, is a static, this echoes of eternity. Well, what is inside that? What does that, you know, pre-mankind eternity look like? And it's, unimaginable at this point. Like, what is it? It's an amalgamation of just all these ideas and things that existed before us that are still always going to be there. And so when it's used in that context, that these things that live in the static, that live in the pre-mankind era, are always there waiting, waiting for a chance for a doorway in order to kind of connect over to that other side, which I think that's a really interesting way to think of it, that, this white noise, static, sound, and light is just always underneath everything that we try to put on top of it, whether it is TV or us trying to record things to make sense of it. That always underneath there's something there, that's a constant underneath our technology and stuff like that. So when we go into that way of thinking a little bit further, that what we're observing and how we observe through the films, it's as an observer, as a spectral spectator. That sounds kind of weird, but what we're understanding and what we're doing, what we're witnessing is the melding of these old world ideas with the modern human sensibilities, whether it's paranormal activity, when they start capturing this thing that's haunting them and understanding that it's always been a part of one of the characters' lives. It's always been underneath everything she tried to do, tried to act normal, tried to have this regular normal life, but this thing, this this haunting, this invisible spirit always just kind of haunted her, followed her. And no matter what kind of life that she tried to have. So, her boyfriend using a camera, trying to make sense of things, trying to capture it, trying to place things within a context that he or she could understand, more so him, because he's, you watch it, he's just this basic dude. It doesn't matter how much proof he's got or whatever, he still like taunts things and tries to do things according to this, modern America bro sensibility when nah, it's something else. You can't really do that and taunt something that's, a demon, and think that you capturing it, you trying to make the sense of things is going to change anything you do. Same thing with Poltergeist. I mean, the static is the bridge which they, connect to the family that live in the house. And you realize, when you realize, where this subdivision is built on, when it's built on, the bones of this civilization that existed, you know, years prior, that it can't be forgotten, that no matter what you do, this comfortable family, nuclear family stuff that we all kind of, a lot of people try to aspire to have, which is that, you get your house, you got your family, you got your kids, you live in an okay house, you're able to pay your bills, everything's great, but it's not that simple. There's a lot of blood that had to be shed in the meantime. And that static, that white static throughout Poltergeist just acts as a bridge for that. But Poltergeist is a really fun film, as you can see from these great slides here. It's one of the reasons why the initial rating for Poltergeist was rated R, until they placed an appeal to the MPAA, and then they got a PG, because that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's before the PG-13 rating was created, uh, which is almost directly related to Steven Spielberg too, because of Gremlins. And basically, this is still I don't know. It's a cool film with a lot of great people behind it, but then it has such weird stories behind it. I mean, you had Toby Hooper, which he had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which changed horror as we know it. Coming in and doing this stuff mixed in with Steven Spielberg, who's coming off of the most successful films of all time, and then coming together and creating this beautiful amalgamation of both of their sensibilities, even though, it is widely speculated that Steven Spielberg uh, directed a lot of the more intense sequences because he had a particular way of producing, and Toby Hooper he was very passive um, on set, listening and really paying attention to what Steven had to say in the first place, not really wanting to be argumentative. So you can see both of them in there, but it really does feel like a spooky Spielberg film. Um, but then, besides like the themes of it, then I don't know if you've heard of the poltergeist curse, because apparently the bones in the film are real bones, that it cursed the production, to where, some the cast and crew members, some of them got really hurt, and then a couple of people, ended up dying. Like the older child in the film, the older sister, she died at the age of 22, and then Carol Ann, a little blonde, died, and at the age of 12 because of a freak medical accident. So everybody kind of thought that there was a curse that kind of followed the cast and crew, because they use real bones with it, which kind of makes watching the film itself kind of a little bit more spooky, because of this history that's tied to it, a film that has actually supposedly killed people. Ooh. With kind of acknowledging the history of all of that, um, definitely incorporate your reading, or read the Marie Leader paper before watching it, so you can kind of get a grasp as to you know what we're talking about, because it's really interesting that Poltergeist has this real dynamic of being cursed because of the things the filmmakers decided to do that encroached on the past, that encroached on if it's really using human bones and cursed everything, um, why people believe that to be true. Same thing with, the same thing happens in the movie. So, and if you're applying, what you read, it's just interesting how you have science, and you have the, material dimension just going against one another all the time, but that dimension has always been there. We just have the scientific means to get through to it, to get through to the static. What's in the static? That's how you find it. And that's essentially what Poltergeist is. But even as a viewer, just understanding that push and pull, it kind of makes it a little scary if you just assume that all of these things are really there underneath the static, underneath everything we do. But as a side note, if you are interested in learning more about that curse, I placed a link online um, that talks about the Cursed Films TV show that's on Shudder, and it goes into a whole lot more detail uh, as far as the actual curse. So I recommend watching that. It's pretty cool. And after reading that paper, just apply it towards the whole Paranormal Activity series. The idea that the main characters use this technology to try to make sense and remove themselves from the situation that's unfolding, but it just puts them further into it. Like they try to use the technology to make sense of it, to capture it, to validate themselves, validate their beliefs, and the more they try to convince themselves it's real, the more it becomes real, the more it just destroys them. So it's just really interesting. But again, I recommend you reading that paper prior to watching it, which I think will certainly help when you write your paper. So at the end of each of the PowerPoints, I'm just going to pose a few questions at the end. It's not necessarily that I want you to answer these. I just kind of want you to kind of come up with questions like this on your own in order to really think deeper the context in which they were created and why they make you feel the way they make you feel. Because you can, be whisked away. You could be terrified. You could feel the dread. You could feel scared. You could feel all these specific array of things. But ultimately, you need to know why you feel these things. Because if you understand why you feel this way with a film, you can apply that directly towards anything else. So just ask yourself, write yourself some specific questions that help you decipher the why. And it's also just kind of contextualizing it. So just look at these questions, and I have these at the end of each of the PowerPoints, and kind of use these as a stepping stone, jumping off point, whatever. Like I said, I don't want you to necessarily answer these, but I mean, if you do, cool. Otherwise, I just kind of want to stir your imagination a bit while you're writing. Because I mean, I know it's writing. I want this to all be conversational, but I want you just to justify and really be insightful as to why we're watching and doing these things. So, yeah, again, thank you for listening to the class too. I can't wait to get into some weirder stuff. So, have a good day.